Hello, and thank you for joining us for compiling CS Week 8. This week we are going to be learning about data. For our lesson in Scratch today, we are going to be learning about three different types of data: Boolean data, integer data, and string data. Boolean data is a simple true-false value. It can only ever be one or the other. Integer data is data that can be represented using a number. So we can use integer data to count or to represent an amount of something. String data is data that uses characters. So string data can be words or sentences or passwords or other things like that. We are going to use this Scratch project here to explore our three different data types. Our setup here is that our Scratch cat is out here on the farm to pick some apples, but they happen to lose their car key. So we need to collect the car key and collect 3 apples before we can head home in the car. To help our Scratch cat collect what they need and get home, we are going to use our different types of data. So our Scratch cat needs to collect 3 apples before they can leave. In order to collect apples, we need to ask a couple of questions. Has our cat come into contact with an apple? And how many apples do we have? To answer our first question, we are going to use our Boolean data. Our game setup here, our apple sprite is hidden for the start of our game, but we know it's there, so we need to see if our Scratch cat touches our apple sprite. We're going to do this by going to the sensing category, and the very first block up here says touching, and there's a little drop-down menu. We're going to set that to cat and put that in our if statement. This touching block returns a Boolean value. If we click on it, we can see that right now it's returning false because our apple and cat are not touching. So when we put this in our if statement, when our cat and apple touch, the code down here will run. So now we need to answer our second question. How many apples do we have? When we start out our game, we have an apples variable that starts out at 0. So what we need to do is when we touch our apple, we need to add to that variable. So we're going to go to the variables category, and we are going to use the change apples by 1 block. We're going to put that inside of our if statement. And what that'll do is it'll count how many apples we've come into contact with. That is our integer data. Once we've counted our apple, we want to make sure that it leaves the game, so that way we are actually keeping track of it and we're not picking up infinite apples. So what we need to do is go to the control category and get this very last block that says delete this clone and connect that underneath our change apples by 1 block. Once we've done that, why don't we go ahead and test and make sure our cat can collect our apples. We can click our flag to start out our game, and the cat lets us know it needs to find 3 apples and its key. We can walk around using the arrow keys, and every so often an apple will fall from our apple tree. So if we go up there, we can see that our apple disappeared and our apple count went up by 1. If we go up there, just notice a few apples fell. I was able to collect them all, and we can keep collecting apples as they fall from the tree. So far we've used 2 data types. We used our Boolean data type to see if our cat was touching the apple, and then we used our integer data type to keep track of how many apples we've collected. Now we're going to explore using the string data type. We need to select the key sprite, and here, notice we'll have another blank if statement. We are going to use the same Boolean data block to see if our cat has picked up its key. We need to go to the sensing category and set our touching block to cat once again. And this is going to return a true or false if our cat is touching our key. When our cat does pick up the key, we need to decide what code to represent that. An integer data type wouldn't make much sense, as a key is an object and we don't really want to represent that with a number. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the key to our pockets. We need to go to the variables category, and we need to scroll down, and this 4th block here, insert thing at 1 of pockets, we want to put that inside of our if statement, and we want to change thing to key. Once we pick up our key, we want it to hide so that way it moves from the game field into our pockets. So we're going to go to the looks category, and we are going to add in this hide block right underneath our insert key at one of pockets. Once we add in that last block of code, let's go ahead and test out our project and see if everything works out as it should. Our cat tells us we need to find 3 apples and our key. Let's go see if we can pick up our key. And we go over there and notice that the key has shown up in our pockets. And we can go up and see, and I already have my 3 apples, so we can go to the car and see, we have everything we need. So our Scratch Cat can leave the farm, and we've won the game. This is a simple example of 3 different data types we can use in Scratch. To expand on this, you can remix this project to add other objects. You can add things that you want to represent with string data, like your key, maybe other collectibles, or you could add other things like our apples, which we could represent with a numerical value. Thank you for tuning in to Compiling CS Week 8.